After weeks filled with fear following attacks against Asian Americans, one group is taking a stand today to protect Asian American lives. The new call to action comes after another day of protests across the city. Hundreds of Asian Americans and allies rallying in Union Square this morning, calling for safety on the streets. And this new movement ignited after the deadly shooting spree at spas near Atlanta. 8 people were killed. 6 of the victims were women of Asian descent. And tonight, a group of community activists in Queens are taking safety into their own hands. News 4's Anjali Hemphill is live in Flushing with their plan. Anjali?
Well, Gilma, Asian communities are now fighting back, creating their own patrol teams who will go out, made up of volunteers who will go out and act as the eyes and ears in places like here in Flushing.
We are here to stop domestic terror.
Emotions ran high in Flushing, Queens Sunday afternoon.
We stand here today in unity, saying that discrimination will not be tolerated.
As anger and concern over anti-Asian hate crimes is growing.
So when we see things that are racially motivated, racially biased violence, we must call that out for what that is.
Dozens gathered outside Queens Library to call for more protections in New York City Asian communities. Volunteers have already created what they call civil defense patrol teams, the first ever civilian patrols that will cover Flushing and Northeast Queens in response to the rise in attacks.
We try to stop some hate crime, or we try to make the community safer, especially for those elderly.
So far this year, the NYPD says there have been at least 10 reports of anti-Asian hate crimes, compared to none in the same period last year, like this one in February that was caught on camera and drew community outrage. A man violently shoved a 52-year-old Asian American woman outside of a bakery in Flushing, Queens. She had to have stitches to her forehead, and 47-year-old Patrick Mateo was later arrested. But fear in the Asian community remains.
We try to send a strong voice to all the society. We Asian people don't cause any trouble.
So far, there are 300 patrol members. They're made up of retired police officers, small business owners, and anyone else who wants to volunteer. They've been out for the last few weeks patrolling the streets, usually at night. We're live in Flushing. Anjali Hemphill, News 4, New York.
Anjali, thank you. In Chinatown, hundreds rallied against the recent string of attacks on Asian Americans in New York City and around the country. The protesters took their fight against hate to Columbus Park today, where they were joined by Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and New York City mayoral candidate Andrew Yang.
Now it is up to all of us to speak out every time we see an act of hatred against Asian Americans or against any American, because hate against one is hate against all.
Today's rally was organized by Stop AAPI Hate. The organization runs a reporting center which tracks incidents of hate against Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders in the U.S.